and so on. So let's look at how the two moving voices in the treble clef interact, and then maybe we'll be able to figure out what's going on. There are suspensions here, 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 and so on, and it continues. And specifically, what sort of suspensions are there? Well, the 7/6 suspensions. Why 7/6? Because this is a seventh, the dissonance, which resolves to the consonants, a sixth. And then this is a seventh, that's a sixth, seventh, this is a diminished seventh, sixth, seventh, sixth, seventh, sixth. Pattern ends there. But that's not the end of it, because there's also some sort of chromatic thing happening in the second voice from the top. Here. Some sort of chromatic descent. Now, is it a random chromatic descent? Is it just going a semitone down every beat? No, there's stuff that breaks that pattern, like this A here, that is sustained over 2 quarter beats, 2 crotchets if you're from England. So what's going on? There seem to be 2 versions of every scale degree in that voice. Let me give you an example. So this is, what is this? That's a B natural. And that's scale degree 6. Why 6? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so there's a higher version and a lower version, the raised 6th and the lowered 6th. Now we'll talk about this A afterwards. G sharp is a raised 4. G natural, the natural 4. So, and then this one, which has the raised 3 and the lowered 3, the one you'd expect in D minor. So high and low version. And then 2, scale degree 2, and then the flattened version. So we've got a string of 7/6 suspensions with a diatonic line on top, and a chromatic line just below that. Notice also that this chromatic second line here is totally optional. He could totally do it completely diatonically, like so. And end there. Or even if he wanted to go on, he could have done and carry on like that. So the chromatic thing is just to add color, to add tension, and to add an air of dramatic uncertainty, I guess. Now what's going on here with the A naturals? Why isn't it A natural and then A flat? Well, because if he did that, 7, 6 with the A flat, this would have to be 7, and then he either goes 7, 7, which isn't a 7/6 suspension, or he goes and repeats that G natural. So in other words, there would be instead 2 versions of 5, a higher one and a lower one, A natural, A flat, and then he'd have to have G natural for both of these, rather than, so he has a choice. He can either go double the A natural and then have sharp and flat scale degree 4, or he can do the opposite. He can do and then flatten the 5 and then repeat that natural scale degree 4. Notice also that he could have ended, if he had changed this chord, he could have gone and would be home. But that's not what he does, because he wants to ratchet up that energy and drama even more. So what we instead have is a ascending sequence. that goes up. And then he breaks the pattern here. He could have gone. But he doesn't do that. He goes back to the falling suspensions again, except here they're not 7/6 suspensions anymore. They're instead 2/3 suspensions. Notice that 2/3 suspensions are the inversion of 7/6 suspensions. So in other words, if I put the G above the A here, that's a 7th, right? And if I put the F above the A, that's a 6th. So instead of this, you can have, which is exactly the same as this, but it's inverted. Also notice that because the 2/3 suspensions are just 7/6 suspensions, but inverted, you could actually have the chromatic line descent here as well, but because they're inverted, you have to put them on the top line rather than the bottom line like before. So that'll turn out like this. B natural, B flat, two versions, right? Keep the A like before. And then G sharp, G natural, because before we had the diminished 7th to the major 6th, so now it's an augmented 2nd to a minor 3rd. They're just inverted, yeah? Then F sharp, F natural, and then E natural, E flat, but because we want to join that to the mini 5/7-1s, we can break the pattern here and then continue as before. Like that, and then, yeah. We could end everything right here with a good old D minor chord, right? It could go from here. I'll play this bit here. It could go. But he doesn't do that. He doesn't want to end it right there. He wants to go for one more round. He wants to do something else. So instead we've got this augmented 4th or tritone, which resolves outwards to a 6th. Again, augmented 4th, 6th, augmented 4th, 6th, augmented 4th, 6th. So he does a naughty thing here. If he had stuck strictly to the pattern, it would be... As you can see, that goes totally out of the key. I'll play it one more time to show you its bad effect. That's obviously wrong. And he wants to end it here anyway. So what he instead does is this. This is the correct version. So he does... So it's kind of like a, what is it? Neapolitan, right? Neapolitan 6th. Flat 2, 5, 1. Oh, I forgot to say, all of these are like 5/7-1s, right? Like mini 5/7-1s. Like D7, G, C7, F. And then what is this? B flat 7, E flat, A7, D minor. I call them mini 5/7-1s because they're not really 5/7-1 in the functional sense of the term. They're not like 5/7-1 at a cadence. So let's recap. How does he build drama? He does 7/6 suspensions, which are falling, and he links that to something that's rising, an ascending sequence. And then he does the falling thing again, but instead of 7/6 suspensions, he does the 2/3 suspensions. And then he rounds everything off with the augmented 4th, resolving to the 6th. All of those mini 5/7-1s. So what have we learned today? Well, we've learned one way to use suspensions, both 7/6 and 2/3. We've also learned that there are two ways that Bach can add chromaticism to lines. The first being the 7/6 suspensions. here. And the second being the mini 5/7 here. But more importantly, we've learned not to be satisfied with chord labeling as a form of analysis, but to actually go beyond that and look at how voices interact contrapuntally and to see if we can find any patterns that can unearth the meaning of, or at least the compositional logic of the piece. And hopefully through that process, we maybe will be able to learn some specifics about the compositional techniques that Bach, or any other composer for that matter, is using. So if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll attempt to answer your questions. Okay, more next time.